Good morning. This is Dr. Ann Schaefer back with another issue of SoulGrowth.org. We are going to give you a little lesson in Dr. Roberto Assagioli today. Dr. Roberto Assagioli was a very wise teacher. He was a psychiatrist. He was born in 1888 and died in 1974. While he was on the planet, he taught us so many wonderful things. Because his psychology is called psychology of the soul, I wouldn't want you to have to call it psychosynthesis, which is what it is, but psychosynthesis is about using your whole self, your brain, your body, your emotions, and your spirit that helps you to be whole in the world. What he said was that we have almost a GPS system. I call it a GPS system. It's a guidance system. He did say strongly that we are not our brains, though some people think that they are. They get to usually be movie critics or book critics, but they want to find out, they want to critique things regularly. They're good at that. But we have a brain, but we're not our brain. And then he also said, we have emotions. We have feelings and emotions. We have words for feelings, but we are not our emotions. Our emotions are guidance system in our GPS system that helps us know if we're in or out of harmony. And you can feel that in your body. Your senses actually help you to decide that. And you can also understand that you have a body. That's part of your GPS system to get you around the planet and to do the work that you were born to do. Most people understand that there is something that they're very, very interested in doing in the world. My dear partner was always married to music. At a very young age, he began to know that he was supposed to give joyful noise to the planet, and that's what he's done all his life. And there's a person that's in harmony with what he's supposed to do. What happens when you're in a field that you're not supposed to be in? Well, you can have all kinds of illnesses. You can have all kinds of dis-eases. When you're doing the right thing in the right time in the right place, then your whole system will work better. And did you know, I spent about 15 years in the Yosemite National Park area, and I learned that there are about 70 climbing routes to El Capitan, the big rock up there in Yosemite National Park. And probably more than that now. People are always finding a new route. And there's a lot more ways to get around the planet and do what you're supposed to do. There's room for everyone. A lot of times we don't really realize that. But within yourself, it's important to know that you wanting to be a whole person that can do what you're supposed to do on the planet, you also have to know your own self well enough to orchestrate your mind, your feelings, your body, and all the signals that you get to become the whole person that you are. It's almost like having your own little orchestra inside, because you have your feelings telling you one thing, your brain's telling you something else, someone outside of you is telling you something about you that you may or may not listen to. But the most important thing is to know yourself. So what orchestrates you as a person? How do you need to make your life be conscious? We know through people like Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza and others, and Jung. Carl Jung was a contemporary of Roberto Assagioli, but what Assagioli and Jung and Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton all say is that we have about 5%, maybe 10, that we're conscious of, that we can actually process in a conscious manner. That most things we know about and most habits that we have are basically from our unconscious self. They are from the past, They're things you were taught when you were a child. They're things that you, real or imagined, adopted in yourself. They may or may not benefit you. But when you know what things are conscious and what things are not conscious, then you have a chance to be a more whole person. You can deal with things that Roberto Assagioli called sub-personalities. I know many of you have heard things like you have an inner child that you have to deal with. Well, it's really more like inner children, because many, many things happen to you that are in your unconscious, your subconscious self. Carolyn Mace wrote a book about the energies in a person, and she said we all have sub-personalities that are in common, such as everyone has a critic, everyone has a victim, and everybody has a saboteur, everyone has a rebel. You might see right now, because we have a lot of protesting in our country right now, a lot of critics. You have a lot of victims, you have a lot of sabotaging going on, you have a lot of rebelling going on. Is that conscious or is that unconscious? What is being pushed down from our past that needs to come up? Well, we're finding out. Assagioli said it's very important to have the entropy. Entropy and syntropy are two different things. In the social world, in the scientific world, entropy is the process of everything decaying. We are all going to die. We're all going to be back to dust. And while we're on the planet, we also have an opportunity to have syntropy. That means, and as he said, synthesis of our whole self. It's harder to do that when too many things are in the unconscious or subconscious. If you have been sabotaged by your victim subpersonality, it's very difficult to enjoy life fully, because you're too worried about when you're going to be taken advantage of. If you are overcome by the critic and your mind has taken over as if it is yourself, and it isn't, then you can hardly have a spiritual syntropy, and that's what Assagioli said was important, is the spirit of syntropy or psychosynthesis. Having your emotions and your mind and your body work in synchronicity. And only in that way can you access an alignment with what we would call source. We would call soul. Gary Zukav in his Seed of the Soul book called it an alignment with your best self, your authentic power. When that is eroded or taken away, it's very difficult to find which path up El Capitan is best for you. Do you need to be a baker? A woodworker? What is your path? Are you a musician, an artist? Are you a teacher? Are you a physician? Physicians are being very challenged right now by something called the coronavirus. Very many pieces of information coming out now to help us and hinder us. So when you're in a pandemic like this right now, very difficult to focus on what's best for you. SoulGrowth.org is going to give you many lessons in how to make the most of who you are and how to find out who you are and who you want to be. If you're stuck in the past, it's going to be very difficult to be your authentic self and have your authentic power be available to you. People resist change. I learned that especially from my students that had learning disorders. They're very difficult making change. But right now, we have nothing but change going on in the world. So SoulGrowth.org will spend a great deal of time helping you understand adaptation. Thank you for listening today.